Welcome to The Traditional Way. I'm your host, Brett Shumway. This podcast is brought to you by the Martial Arts Internet Network, where you can find all things martial arts related on our social media pages and the main app, available on Apple and Google stores, where you can catch up on all the open circuit sport karate news with Inside Scoop, catch a movie review with fists, kicks, and flicks, or find out what's happening in the jiu-jitsu and MMA worlds on the winner's circle. Plus now, exclusive content that is only available on the app. On this episode, we're jumping back into the Series A, where they had an event in Guadalajara, Mexico on July 17th through the 19th. Over 600 athletes from 63 countries came out for this event, with all the individual veterans divisions being offered, plus Team Kata divisions. They did not offer Team Kumite for some reason, but I think that the Continental Championships alone provided enough prep for this year's World Cup Team World Championships and require less prep than Team Kata does, so offering it on the Series A does make a lot of sense. Let's take a look at the results from Guadalajara. The final of the minus 50 kilogram division came down to Daria Pilpiuk and Rayon Sekor, where both ladies had an easy time through the bracket, Sekor going 20-11 on her way to the final, and Pilpiuk outscored her opponents 15-1. In the final, it was the more experienced Sekor that would pull out a 4-0 victory to secure her second Series A gold, though it was her first final since the last time she won gold in February of 2025. Two former youth stars make it into the final of the minus 55 kilogram division, as Celia Abdasalem and Emma Coletti both try to carve out their spots for themselves in the veteran age category, and they walked through the bracket at this event, with Abdasalem outscoring the competition 26-2, and Coletti taking out her opponents at a 31-10 quip. These two young ladies squared off and went at it and fought a very close, tough final match that ended in a 3-3 draw, with the decision being awarded to Abdasalem, who secured enough points to put her in contention for a Premier League spot next year. Ana Rodina and Carlota Osorio, two of the more experienced fighters in the minus 61 kilogram division with a combined 85 events between them, walked through the bracket without much resistance. Osorio, who had a pretty middle-of-the-road career to this point, was making only her second final of her career, and Rodina was trying to win her second gold this year in the Series A. These two did not hold back, fighting a back-and-forth battle that saw a lot of good defense. In the end, Rodina would win 5-3 and make it back-to-back Series A wins this year. In the minus 68 kilogram division, the final two women who have decent win rates make it to the finals. Jenna El-Ghaffari comes in at 19-6, and Karima Menawi enters at 14-9, with only 14 events between them. They got there in different ways. Makawi won her first two fights 8-0 and only gave up two in the semifinals, where El Ghafi had a close fight every step along the way. The final was a good fight that saw Makawi come out on top of a 6-4, giving her first gold in the Series A since 2022. The young athlete versus the veteran in the over 68 kilogram division, as Antonello Navarro steps up to the adults to face this year's PKF champion Brenda Pereira. Navarro, who hasn't seen much success since she was a cadet, had an easy ascent until the semifinals, where she would be losing by 4, but would advance out of that round by disqualification, making it into the finals, her first finals as an adult, and fight Pereira to a 2-2 tie, but ultimately lose by the Senshu advantage. This is Pereira's second goal of 2026, as she has secured enough points to guarantee her spot on the Premier League once again. Couldn't be more of an age gap than what we saw in the female kata, as the junior world number 1 ranked Rita Marquez at 17 and Maria Dimitrova at 40 are the two females that made it to the final, and both have great stories to follow. Marquez, who hasn't really found her footing in the veterans age category, yet makes it to her first final compared to Dimitrova, who is making a comeback after a 3-year hiatus. They match up with a battle of Super Empe that would come down to one judge's decision, as Dimitrova would secure the gold and her second since her return earlier this year. Portugal and Mexico pair off for the final of the female team kata division, with Portugal running Carumfa and Mexico opting for a non-die. This would end up in Portugal's favor, as they took the match 4-1 to secure the gold medal. An all-Mexican final in the minus 60 kilogram division, as Danielle Romero and Andre Bravo meet up. This is both their first final in the veteran age category, as Romero is ranked third in the U21 category. He spends most of his time at events that offer U21 divisions. For Bravo, this is only his fourth event, so we were also trying to see what he brings to the table. They electrified the home crowd and had a great fight that found Romero on top 5-3 scored fight to take the gold. Diego Ribeiro seems to have found a home back in the minus 67 kilogram division after a one event attempt in the minus 60 kilogram division earlier this year. And he outscored his opponents 19-1 on the way to the final, where he matched up against the young Samir Sadini, who had a tougher side of the bracket but would still outmatch his opponents 20-7 on his way to the final, where he would take home the gold medal after winning the final 3-1. This is his first gold as an adult. A ton of close fights in the minus 75 kilogram division that looked like 3 or 4 guys really had a good shot at making the finals. But the two to emerge were Martin Sakai and Juan Macedo, both of which have a pretty middle-of-the-road careers thus far within the WKF, as both of them have a win rate in the low 50 percentile. But they would both take their shot at their first gold of either one of their careers in the final in a close 3-2 match that honor would go home with Juan Macedo. The minus 84 kilogram division would see the debut of Hamza Labid, who would take the show as he outscored his opponents 44-14 in his 6 fights to secure the gold medal. This would have been a great performance for anyone, but it being his first WKF event just makes it so much better, right? So now we are all waiting to see if this was a flash in the pan or the making of a true contender in this division. These are the types of performances that make me keep coming back to watch. The over 84 kilogram division found 2 athletes, different stages of their careers, meet up in the final, as Jesus Garcia is a top 10 ranked U21 athlete and Enis Garabovic is an old fighter looking to find a home in one of the weight categories, as he has fought in 4 of the 5 since becoming an adult. With both of them having some low-scoring, close matches throughout the bracket, they meet up in the final where Garcia would take the gold after a 4-1 fought match. Male kata found Ray Chinen and Ryuki Takayo make it to the finals, as Chinen attempts to secure enough points to make it back to the Premier League next season. And Takayo was doing his second WKF event of his career. And he started off his first 2 matches 3-2, and that would be the only close matches of his day. Chinen, on the other hand, didn't have a close match until the semifinals. The final between them was a Super Rempe showdown that went 5-0 in favor of Takayo for his first gold within the WKF. Macau and the Dominican Republic make it to the final of the men's kata division, where they would both opt to run Anan. And it was a close match, but Macau would pull out a 3-2 win to top the podium. This event was kind of a mixed bag, where there weren't really any countries that really stood out as the most dominant at this event. The performance of Hamza Labid still is probably my favorite of this event, but I love when someone comes out of nowhere and plants a flag in the division, letting everyone know that you may not have heard of me yet, but allow me to introduce myself. I also like the return of Maria Dimitrova. Look, she already had a good, could possibly say great career. She has 3 continental titles to go with her 10 medals from the PKFs. She has 8 Premier League medals, including 2 golds. She was relevant in this sport when she walked away 3 years ago. But to return at 40 and have 2 golds in 3 events is something special. Look, take it from me. You don't get better at 40. It just doesn't happen. So for her to be having success at her age and being pretty much unheard of for the past 3 years is great. We definitely don't know how long this run will take her, but I personally hope that she, at the very least, gets to see one last World Championships before she calls it quits for good. Last subject I gotta touch on once again is kata scoring. And this time, it's the WKF's fault. Look, in my opinion, you have to stop showing the fans technical scores. I do believe the technical scores should be present, and they should be given to the athletes so they can see how they did based on that scoring system. But it doesn't matter to who won the match. You have went back to picking a winner, which is fine. But the problem is you still show the scores. So people have the room to say, well, he won based on scores, but yet he lost 3-2. I don't understand how that happens. First off, I think people need to understand that the technical scores don't matter anymore. But why even fuel that fire? Just present the scores as red and blue, and one with the most judges win. That's how it's being scored officially. So why open the door for any interpretation on it not being fair, which is the complaint that is going to be. If it were up to me, we would just use flags so there is no confusion. But I get that WKF wants to do the video scoring, so just show who won on the screen and not the scores. Saves everyone a lot of confusion and a lot of complaining about your scoring system. And with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Traditional Way. Join me on the next episode where we're going to take a deep dive into the current rankings within the WKF. Until then, continue to support the Martial Arts Center Network and all of our programs. Until next time.